anti-terror laws, and he's representing David. We also have a supporter from the Afghani Australian community, Zoe Safi. Hi Zoe, I'm really and of course the director of the film, Paul Matereke. Paul, tell us about Treason Flowers and how you came to meet David and make this film.
Okay. Treason Flowers is a production company that me and my mate Sean formed in 2017. We made a short documentary about Robert Herbert, who was a projectionist at the Art Gallery of New South Wales. So from the beginning, I think Treason Flowers has always been interested in telling intimate portrait stories. So that previous one was a 22-minute portrait documentary about a projectionist, his love for film, and my discovery for my passion of cinema. And we got that film put on SBS, and as we were, because things were happening so quickly, we were like, I think we need to be legit, because we just can't just go in without a company name. And we formed the company name in a week. We signed up for an ABN and everything, and then became legit. So we've been running since 2018. I met David through my brother, Noel Matereke, who was also one of the producers. And Noel is a social media marketing genius. He handles all of David McBride's social media accounts. So David, I think he had in mind of doing a video series, like a video story, but his reference was the Kardashians. And he wanted to do something like that, and I said, I think we could do better, David. So we had a couple phone calls, and I literally met him the day before we started shooting, and immediately there was a connection. It's a weird one, because he really did change my perception of what I thought an ex-military person is. He is funny, he's intelligent, he's also like in touch with his emotions. And I had that typical thing, that stereotypical view of what an ex-soldier is. You know, they're rough, they fight, they're just. But then he wasn't any of that. So he really challenged my perception of what an ex-military is. So we decided that the documentary that we're gonna film, we're gonna do it in a day, and we should follow a day in the life format. Because, yeah, we really didn't have much of a script per se, but we just said, like, what do you do in your day? And let's just follow that. So as an army man, he wakes up at 5 a.m. So we started at 5 a.m. And then we just kind of followed him throughout his whole day. And then that was the format. So, yeah, that's the story.
Paul, congratulations, it's a fabulous film and it deserves to be seen by more people. So what are the plans regarding distribution?
I think there has been talks between myself, David, and Noah that maybe we should do like a national tour to go to other cities. So we start with Sydney, and the response has been positive. Thank you all for showing up. And maybe we can go to Melbourne or Adelaide and stuff. But I've always thought in my mind, we know there's a bigger story. If the trial is happening, there could be a potential to make like a bigger feature. So this documentary, I kind of see it as a preliminary work. So hopefully we can approach some organizations like, look at what we have, I think there's a bigger story. Let's follow it up to make it into a bigger story. I'll probably take a couple of years just to follow the process of the trial. Yeah.
I'm I'm sure it is going to be a big story. It's a big story now and it's going to get bigger. Zoe, lovely to meet you. David tells me you're a tremendous supporter. And I wondered if you could tell me what it's meant to you and the Afghan community, what David has done. What has it meant to you and the Afghani community?
Thank you so much for having me tonight. And I feel like I'm more nervous than David. What it meant to us. When I
Can everyone hear?
Can you all hear me?
Talk a bit
closer. Okay. Thank you. What it meant to me, when I first watched the Afghan files and read the Brereton report, I think it was a consensus that most Afghans, or every single Afghan, the Afghan diaspora in Sydney was hurt and shocked. And it was one of those stories that we've always heard. We know about it, that there are incidents in Afghanistan that's not merely casualties of war, that there were incidents like this. So what David did for us, he gave us closure. He accepted and acknowledged what was happening on ground. And when I was watching, I remember this every time. It's been 2 years now. I started this petition on change.org, save our Aussie whistleblower, and this petition has received worldwide attention. We've obtained now 70,000 signatures. So for those of you who have not signed yet, it's change.org/save the Aussie whistleblower. I've got members of our Afghan community here present tonight, quite scattered actually, but I've just come here to thank you, and they want to extend their heartfelt gratitude to David, because he fought a battle that was not his only. He fought for us, for the Afghan justice. This is very courageous. It's very heartwarming and overwhelming to know that someone cares for us. What he did, he's also redeemed the reputation of the military and the Australian nation. And like David said in his video, if I have to go to prison to do the right thing, I will. You did the right thing, David. You did the right thing. You stood by us, and we are forever grateful to you. That's all I have to say.
Zoe, we learnt today that the Australian government has missed the deadline to make a decision about paying compensation to the 39 individuals who were killed allegedly unlawfully. And the Brereton inquiry recommended that compensation was paid promptly to people where there was credible evidence, and he believed there was credible evidence. Now they've missed the deadline. What's your reaction to that? Because Afghanistan today is experiencing great hardship, hunger, poverty, largely because the United States have usurped Afghanistan's money, and Australia hasn't paid compensation when they could have to people who are in dire need back there. What's your reaction to that?
If I have to be honest, it makes me angry. This is because, like you said, when they had the opportunity to help, they did not. And now we've got the Taliban regime back in Afghanistan, putting us back 20 or 40 or 50 or 60 years back. And we've got all these limitations of not being able to send funds, and as far as I'm concerned, it's all excuses.
Thank you, Zoe. Thank you for your support. Now, Mark, you're coming to this with a very interesting background. Many of you here will know Mark. Mark. So you bring together through journalism and the law, your interest in accountability and commitment to justice. And I want to ask you first about press freedom, because the government's constantly banging on about press freedom in other countries. They haven't prosecuted journalists in Australia, though they're very happy for Julian Assange to die at prison. But they are pursuing whistleblowers relentlessly. What sort of press freedom can we have without whistleblowers?
Well, of course you can have none. And it's what drew me, as a journalist, I became interested because I was always working with whistleblowers. So drew is this any good, this mic? Yeah. It's what drew me, to this area of the law. But look, I have a more bleak view on that, Mary. I think journalism has gone down the tube anyway. So maybe it's only the whistleblowers that can save us, right? It is only people who make public declarations on important issues and so show some courage. I can tell you there's multiple stories that cannot be publicised in Australia. So I'm going to sound sort of a little bit miserable. I'm sort of giving up on the media, and I'm rather appreciating the whistleblowers. The comment that was made earlier was a brilliant comment that David is redeeming Australia's reputation. David is redeeming the reputation of the Australian military. I mean, what a profound thing to say, and it's utterly true. The very man they want to throw in a jail is the one man that might redeem some skerrick of integrity for us. It's very similar to Bernard Collaery, who was the whistleblower about the oil deals in East Timor. I can promise you, Bernard Collaery is a hero in East Timor, and as the Timorese discovered what Australia did to them, the only thing you would think they would put Bernard Collaery, on a golden chair and carry him to East Timor, and everything would be repaired. No, they want him in jail. They want McBride in jail. It is staggering to me. When David and I first met, he was a very lonely man, really. I'm not on a personal level, he had some friends, but he was isolated. He had nowhere to turn. No one was patting him on the back, because remember this, the Brereton report hadn't happened when they were trying to put David in chains. The Ben Robert Smith trial, or defamation proceeding, which will be the closest we ever get to a war crimes proceeding, with great irony that it's been his own defamation proceeding. None of that had happened. So, David was really staring into the eyes of the beast, and look, we love him for that, actually. I'm only going to get one shot at this, Mary. So, even though David they're portraying him as a criminal, they want to put him in jail, and they want society to see him that way. What I can say is people's attitude to David has utterly transformed, and it's one of the things that I'm proudest to have been part of, apart from what happens in courtrooms. Normally, when you're accused of something, the society is divided about what they think of you. I don't think there's any division about David McBride. The Australian people are behind David McBride. The prosecution of David McBride particularly narrow and self-serving group who merely so no attention, no light is shine upon him. So, and he does have support, and give a bit of a bright light to tonight. I mean, an incredible thing has happened to David, which we haven't really publicly announced. But he applied for his to be admitted again as a lawyer in New South Wales. It went to the New South Wales Law Society, and it's been approved. political action. I mean, I really tip my hat to the Law Society. A long, elaborate process. It's not easy to be facing life in prison and get your law ticket back. But he did, and there it is in black and white. Criminal lawyer. And he's regarded as a man of fit and proper standing that would well represent lawyers. So that's a really great thing. And he's also now working. He started working just sort of quietly for Sydney City Crime. I've got some association with it, but David's now back in the courts. No one knows it, but he's out there.
So Mark, give us an update on where we are with David's case. What's likely to happen? There's the trial starts in September.
I will, because if there's some supporters here, it's important to know. His trial is cut in two. In September, it's a very unique proceeding. It's the public interest disclosure offence. This is essentially Australia's whistleblowing legislation. We have it. It's never been used in 70 years, which probably gives some indication of the difficulty in getting into it. But David will be the first at the Supreme Court, and we're running that defence. It's a difficult one. If he wins the pit, he goes home. If he loses the pit, then the whole criminal proceeding starts. So he's in for the long yards. If he loses pit this year, he'll have a criminal trial in the middle of next year. It's why I'm so glad he's going to get back into being a lawyer and getting on with his life, not just being crippled by this. Because this is what they do to you. They cripple you for 2 to 3 years. So it's a long road. So hang in.
Mark, just one final question. One of the things that's of great concern is that we are starting to have secret trials in this country. In Bernard Collaery's case, there was one hearing where not only was he not allowed to be present, his lawyer wasn't allowed to be present. So they appointed a lawyer who couldn't tell him what happened during the day. It's extraordinary. Is this likely to happen?
No, it has happened. We just haven't made too much of it, frankly. For a couple of reasons. Bernard is the first in the first carriage on the train. So he's confronting this, we're in the caboose behind him. So as he wins or loses his struggles, we're sort of following him. So there's no point in us making the same objections. We also don't have the funds. Bernard's got a great law firm, Goodall and Tobin, who are backing him. So he's fighting every stage. And not as good as us, but they're certainly richer. They're certainly richer. But also, there's not much you can do about it, right? You can fight and fight and fight on these things, and you're losing. Okay, we have to live with it. It will be. You won't hear much about David McBride's trial. I mean, it's shocking, isn't it? I mean, it's truly shocking. I mean, I understand, because I see some of this material, I just need to be careful in what I refer to. But it's understandable. A sliver of it is understandable. Something that might reveal an Australian technique or Australian contacts or something that would expose somebody. But lawyers are used to that. Everyone agrees that we would have no objection. But they've thrown a blanket over 80% of David's proceedings. It's impossible to run in any public way. Can I point out one other thing though? What you're referring to is not just about national intelligence. It's happening across the whole civil sort of space for people that are whistleblowing on powerful organisations. Do you mind if I embarrass you, Troy? No. Stand up, Troy. Troy Scholes is a client of ours. Troy was a whistleblower. He worked for clubs in New South Wales. And I cannot say much more than that. Sit down, Troy.
But you can Google him.
You can Google him before they started putting the gag down his throat and mine. You can Google him, Troy Stoltz. And so it's not national security, it's just taking on powerful organisations, and you'll never hear of Troy Stoltz in the coming months until we can try and undo that. So it's really becoming very grim, the whole secrecy issue.
David, your life has been a living hell for years now. What I'd like to know is, has anyone been held accountable for the war crimes that you've revealed? Held accountable, prosecuted, investigated, with respect to the Afghan files? Has that happened?
If I'm going to stand up for this, no. It's a good question, and it links into what Mark said. While you don't need to know all the ins and outs, I mean, you can see from the movie, I'm a pretty straight up and down, straight up and down, but I am a person from an establishment background who tried to do the right thing and wanted to do the right thing and wanted to be a soldier. And I was a lawyer a long time ago, and I'm a lawyer now. I'm not an anti-establishment activist, but I can tell you things are very bad in this country. Bernard Cleary's case, while you won't necessarily understand it, what it means is if the government, the Liberal Party, or the Labor Party, have a major donor, and you might even be working for a company who's a minor donor, but the major donor gives more money to the company than your company, and the major donor's directors say to the government, we want you to kill the bloke who works for the minor company, and ASIO or ACES would do it. And you know the only person that would go to jail is the person that spoke about it. That's not an exaggeration. That is what's happening. We know about Cleary's case. We know about my case. There may be 100 cases when every case I looked into in the Defence Force was rotten. This country, we are getting towards a sort of Hunger Games type thing, as Mary said. And the reason I have to pause that, no one has been prosecuted for murders. Most of you will have seen the clear execution of an Afghan sitting in a field, minding his own business with his prayer beads, by an SAS soldier. That is a murder. That man has not even been charged. I am facing a lifetime imprisonment. The government is so arrogant, they don't even think they need to explain why. You don't have to worry about the ins and outs. Mark, me, the rest of the team, Paul, we will fight for you. We will fight until we are dead, but it's pretty serious out there. It is really very, very serious. And the government don't even have to explain themselves. And that's right. It could be the only person, not just here, but in America, in Britain, the only people who end up in jail over the absolute disgrace to the Western world and everything we're meant to believe in are Julian Assange, myself, and a handful of other people that try to do the right thing. Now, if they get away with that, the Western world, as we know it, is at an end. And that is why I'm so happy to have some Afghans here tonight. The only way we are going to heal this is to acknowledge our problems. We have to acknowledge what we did wrong to the Afghan community. I know from AA, the way you fix problems is you clean your side of the street first. And there's a real ignorance in the Western world where we don't want to admit faults. As Mary said, we haven't even paid compensation to the 39 people who were clearly murdered. There's no doubt about it. And even if there was any doubt, you reckon you might throw them a bit of money. We spent $6 trillion or something bombing it out of existence. You think it might be a bit of good PR, but we might have just paid up? No. These are not good people. I mean, I come from this situation as a soldier, and I have a lot of I have to admit, I have a lot of sort of violent imagery in my head about it. I mean, I grew up on the Second World War imagery, and in some ways you're lucky. To have a really despicable enemy is a great gift as a soldier. And these guys are bad. Don't be fooled. Nothing that they say is true. I mean, look at the Brereton inquiry. They put it on, and insiders like myself suspected it was not bona fide from the beginning. Not that there's anything wrong with Brereton, but there were clear findings of murders, terrible things, and yet despite that, and all the fuss that was made, no one's been charged. It looks like no one will be charged. There's been a defamation action where all the information about my case has been put in the public domain. They're still trying to say it's secret, even though it's in the public domain. And no one's been paid compensation. Everything that the government does is window dressing, and it's no substance. And if this is just the beginning for me, it's not just about avoiding jail. It's not about that. It's about changing the way the Western governments do things, so we no longer think lying is good enough. Lying about what we're doing in the global south, lying to our own people, putting on fronts, becoming the very worst kind of car salesman. And that's why I'm so happy that the Afghans are here. I need them to know that there are people in the West who know that's wrong and who don't accept that and who will not rest until we get justice for the Afghans, and not just that, we really change the way the governments of the West carry out their business in their patronising, sinister, despicable, imperialist manner.
Just a final question. Just a final question, David. I mean, we're all here tonight because we want to believe in democracy and accountability and decency and justice. We have an election campaign on, and your hearing's in September. What can we do now and going forward?
Yeah, thanks, Mary. As I said, I come from a soldier background, and I wouldn't waste your time on just complaining. You know, we can win this, and I'm very glad to see Jeff Morris is here as well, and also Peter Fox. Jeff Morris was instrumental in getting the Banking Royal Commission going, and Peter Fox was instrumental in getting the Royal Commission into institutional child abuse. Now, they were victories. We can actually score victories. It's not a matter. There was a day when, being an activist was about having a long face and waving a placard. Those days are gone. We are here to actually get results. And those two guys, it's always good for me to see them because they got results. Not everything's going to be perfect, but we need, there's only one important thing that's going to come out of this election, and that is a federal ICAC. We need that. We need to vote to get a federal ICAC. It's not about the prosecutions an ICAC produces. An ICAC is like having a sniper on the hill. You might only shoot one person, but everyone else is a little bit scared. And that's the idea. Don't worry about the one person that gets caught by ICAC. Think about the 1,000 that are a little bit scared about taking that bribe, a little bit worried about what they said on the phone. It will work. It's not going to be, it's not going to change everything, but it's a step in the right direction. And we can work on getting Assange out. We can work slowly. I do believe this is a battle we can win. And so I think if you can vote for a good independent, vote for a good independent or a Green in the Senate. it's going to be a lot easier. But we need to keep them honest, and if the independents and the Greens will do that, then we make sure that we do get an ICAC, and then we start applying the pressure. Don't worry about the details, we'll do that. But I do have some thank yous as well. I need to thank you. I need to thank everybody for coming here. It's a really big deal for me. This is one of the important nights of my life. It's not Wembley Stadium, but it's important. It is important. This is the beginning of something. It's not the end. This is the lighting of a fuse, which will get bigger and bigger. If you see the Elton John biopic, what's it called? Audience participation. Anyway, Rocket Man. Now, the best moment in Rocket Man is not when he's playing Wembley Stadium, but when he plays that very small but cool place in Los Angeles, and he plays Crocodile Rock, and he starts levitating because he's had so much drugs or something. But that's when it's a small thing. That is this. That is tonight. We will go on from here, and while I am grateful for everybody being here, my family, Sarah, kept me alive, my law firm, Mark is right. I was being quite close to the edge. I was very friendless when Mark came to see me. And they said, we'll take your case. And I was like, oh yeah, well, whatever. And I didn't have any money to pay them. And that was what it was like. I was ready to go to jail. There are many, many lucky coincidences. I could have easily been dead. I've been very, very lucky with people. Zoe, I never met Zoe. Zoe heard about my case and decided to start a petition. That's pretty good. I mean, I'm a good person, but that is a really good person that does that. Here's about, and I'd like to thank, there are a lot of good people there too. I'm going to forget them, and Mary and people that don't owe me anything, and there's people I've known forever that are here too, but have come out and offered me assistance. And at a time, different flips of the coin, I could easily be dead. I could have easily already been in jail. If Mark hadn't stepped in with his team, I would have already been in jail. Christian Porter would still be around, we're going to win this, not to be depressed. It's a time to be happy. It's a time to celebrate. It's a time to be, it's rare, as you said, that you have a despicable enemy. You get to beat them. You get to celebrate beating them. It's a perfect storm in that way. Nothing like winning and beating someone who deserves a good beating. And that's what you're all part of. I want to see us again. There's no reason why we can't have a good time while we change the world. I want to see you all, that's our motto. I want to see you all next year at the party, celebration party down in Bondi, which I'm sure Waverley Council will agree to. Afghan cuisine, Afghan dancing, Zoe and her friends. We are going to Afghan, in fact it might be Afghan dress, I think. I always knew, I've always had a spiritual connection. I knew when I went to the Khyber Pass for the first time back in 2000 that Afghanistan was going to be part of my life. As Sarah said, everything in my life has brought me to this moment. I do believe that. I do believe my life is always going to be entwined with Afghanistan and Afghanistan with me and this cause. And from this cause, we are going to set an example of what good people in the West can do. And we are going to take that example and do great things. This is the beginning of something fantastic. I'm so grateful for you being here. I can't thank everybody who's helped me so much.
Good on you, Doc.
Every single candidate in this election what their position is on McBride, on Collaery, on Assange, and make it very clear to them that for us, the Australian public, whistleblowers are a cornerstone of our democracy. So, thank you, and thank you for coming tonight. us outside. Congratulations, Paul.
Thank you.
Wonderful story.